Hey everyone, I'm back again talking some more about business. And today I wanted to spend a little time sharing some case studies. These are composites of either clients I've worked with, people I know in the industry, my own experience, both working for other designers and working for myself. And one of the biggest lessons that I've certainly learned, both as a designer and now as a coach, is that small steps in your business, small moves forward can really advance your business in ways that you maybe haven't even thought of yet. I think that the common narrative out there is do things big, always go big or go home, right? And I've seen this a lot. I certainly internalized it for many years. And then I tried things, big shocker, in my own business over the years and learned that sometimes it was a small shift or a small idea that started to make big gains that added to more gains that added to more gains that added up to a more successful business, at least from a financial perspective. And so I wanted to share a little bit about that today. So I will start off by saying if you've followed me for any length of time, if you've worked with me, you probably know by now that I am not the kind of business coach who promises you fame and fortune and $1 million right off the bat. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I've been working in, on, and for small businesses since about 2001, in some capacity or another, even if it was an administrative job or a jewelry production job. The majority of my work experience has been in small businesses, sometimes helping other people with theirs and sometimes running my own. And so I've had a chance to see from the inside what it really takes to move a business forward. And things have, of course, changed a lot in recent years, especially in the jewelry industry. We have had just a phenomenal growth in gold and silver prices this year. I know we've all been feeling it. So that's why I want to talk about some of these smaller changes because you are already dealing with plenty of big changes. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the smaller ones that you can make. And so let's talk a little bit about this through other people's experiences. So everybody has a different setup for their business because you have different needs. Your financial needs might not be the same as another designer's. Somebody else might need to make more money off of theirs, or you might need to make more money off of yours. Or maybe you have certain branding and positioning goals that other designers don't have, or maybe they're going straight for the magazine shoots and that's not an interest of yours. That's fine. That's why we share these stories. So in case study number one, we have a designer who's grown their business to about $450,000 a year in revenue. That's the top line. That's really impressive for a small designer. Actually, to get into that six-figure category to begin with is a really big stretch goal, I know, for a lot of you. And here's somebody who has done that. But this is a person who also feels like they are constantly behind on bills and that there's constantly money going out the door and that they haven't necessarily been able to make the money stick around. Right. So they're just like it's just bill after bill after bill after bill, even though the money is clearly coming in the door. And they would like to scale to seven figures because they've done the math and they understand that in order to pay themselves and even more of a salary, they're going to have to raise the revenue of their business. They're following a plan that they put into place maybe 3 years ago, and they're following all the steps and they're doing everything right. And we'll get to that in a bit, but everything right. And still feeling like they're just in scramble mode, trying to like always like, oh, I got to pay that $10,000 bill and we've got to go to this show and we've got to order all of these parts and get all of these materials and hire another person. And like there's all of these bills. What do I do? So they're trying it all and they just haven't reassessed in a really long time. So that's number one. Case study number two. There's a jewelry designer who's stuck at $90,000 a year in revenue. That's their top line is 90,000, and they're so close to crossing over into that six-figure mark. And they feel like they've tried everything, but they're drowning in tasks. So it doesn't feel like they're going to cross that threshold because they feel like they're already doing everything that they can. And so we're going to step back and ask, what do each of these businesses need? What does business number one, already at 450K? They're following a plan, but they're drowning in bills. They're following a plan, but they don't feel like they're getting ahead. And they're following a plan, but they don't know how they're going to get to that next big mark, that 7-figure mark. And this is a really great stage in their business where I would be counseling them and advising them to do a ruthless, absolutely ruthless assessment of their expenses. Because a business that's been able to scale to 450K in revenue is naturally going to have larger bills. They may be needed to pay for a trade show. Trade shows can be about $10,000 a pop once you factor in booth fees, travel, hotel expenses, making everything, right? So that's twice a year, that's 20,000. Somebody who scales to 450K has likely needed to hire more than one person. So that's lots of payroll while they're also paying themselves. Also, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the cost of gold and silver has gone up a lot. So they need a ruthless assessment of their expenses right now, because what if they skipped that part where they were supposed to have repriced to accommodate the new gold and silver prices? What if they hadn't done a ruthless assessment yet of why they're still going to that trade show? Is that trade show really producing a return on investment for them? Maybe they also need to do a ruthless assessment of all of their tech stack. This is actually something that I recommend that everybody do, regardless of what kind of a business you have, to review every once in a while all of the technology that you use in your business or that you think you're using in your business, and make sure that they're all still relevant. But you really need to do a ruthless assessment at this point to ensure that every dollar that you spend has a return on investment. Now, some of those are going to be maybe a little bit more murky, a little less clear, right? Hiring somebody to work in your jewelry store might not always feel like it has a return on investment, especially on the slow days. But it does have a return on investment, because on the busy days, you have somebody on hand who can make those sales so that you can be making things or working on the strategy for your business. So that person does have a direct return on investment. Maybe you've been feeling like you're paying a lot of money for Shopify and you're not sure that it has an actual return on investment. Well, this is actually a step that we might take and say, how do we make sure that that Shopify expense has a decent return on investment? And this is another thing that I would encourage this business owner to do, is to look at their e-commerce. If you're drowning in bills and you feel like you're constantly behind, part of the answer might be that we need to increase not just your revenue, but your most profitable revenue per piece by just a little bit. And this is just a possibility, a couple of possibilities for person number one who's making 450K a year in revenue. For case study number two, the person making 90K, what do they need? So there's a lot of possibilities. At this stage, this is definitely in a growth stage. You're in an exploratory phase, quite possibly in the beginning. And there is a really good chance that what you would need at this stage is a new skill. What is that skill? Great question. And that answer is going to be different for each of you. So for some of you, that skill might be that you need to learn a new stone setting skill, or a new to you stone setting skill. Or you need to be able to learn engraving, or learn how to use a laser welder, or learn some other extra skills so that you can continue to introduce new products that surprise and delight your consumers and keep those past loyal consumers coming back for the new pieces. So adding in a different technical skill could be really beneficial to your business and could take that to the next level. It could be that the skill that you need at this phase is a new business skill. Maybe you've always shied away from doing video, or maybe you've always shied away from like leaning into your e-commerce, or you have e-commerce, but you don't really understand it, right? So the new to you skill could be that you need to learn how to better manage your e-commerce website so that you can gain more sales. Or the new to you skill might have to be that you learn a new way of selling to people in person. Regardless, at this stage, whatever that skill is, now is a really great time to invest in it, because this is what's going to take your business to another level and be able to add new products and new sources of revenue to your business. And this is a stage that many of us, myself included, have actually been at in the past where we're like, we're so close to getting it. And really, oftentimes, what it takes is just a new skill. So, the really great news for both of these businesses is that the work that's required to get to those next steps, it's not quite as much work as you might think. Because in both cases, some of the things that will move that needle just a little bit has to do with moving just maybe 5% at a time. So in case study number one, something that I'd mentioned was they might need to do a ruthless assessment that is of their expenses, right? And I talked about the fact that it could be that they think that Shopify isn't doing enough for them, but maybe what they need is a new or an improved e-commerce strategy. And if you set yourself a modest goal of, say, earning 5% more in e-commerce, well, 5% more doesn't sound like a lot, but actually for somebody making 450K a year, a 5% shift into e-commerce is thousands of dollars more back in your pocket because each sale is going to be more profitable. And that means a lot more ease in your cash flow and a lot more profit, and the money kind of sticks around a lot more. I experienced this in my jewelry production business when I decided that I was done with trade shows for a while and I really wanted to shift into e-commerce more because I could tell, like, if I made $100 at a sale on e-commerce, I kept so much more. I kept like 80% of the sale after all was said and done. When it was at wholesale, I was keeping like $30 or $40 from the sale. And so it made a lot of sense to me that if I could make maybe fewer sales but earn more money per sale, it would make a lot more sense. It would devote a lot more profit to my bottom line. And so in a case like this, for somebody at 450K, chances are, first of all, they've probably built up a very large audience, right? Because you don't get that far without earning some followers on social media, earning some people following you on your email list, right? You've probably met a lot of your customers. They probably know you and come back to you. So now might be a good time to re-emphasize that personal relationship you have with them through e-commerce. And shifting just 5% of sales is going to make a few $1,000s more stick around in your business. And that can be achieved through so many things. You might just need an audit of your website. You might need to make sure that everything's appearing on SEO, that everything's going to Google Merchant Center. You might need to make sure that all of your photographs are up to date, that you have model shots. And, some of this can be done for like fairly little money. Double checking that things are listed on Google Merchant Center and Google Search Console doesn't take any money at all. You just have to make sure that it's been done. So it takes a little bit of your time. To get more pictures of jewelry on a model, if you're at this stage and you have assistants, guess what? You could pay them to be your models for a day, and you just get some photos of earrings on ears, necklaces on a neck, rings on hands, right? You just make sure that all of your pieces have a model shot attached to it. That's going to be a very big improvement for your e-commerce site. And maybe you just need to do a little bit more emailing, a little bit more social media, but you could add all of this up. And without spending much money, you don't even need to spend money on advertising if you don't want to. A lot of this can just be about like optimizing your website, right? So you could shift your website sales just a little bit, just like move 5% of all of your sales to e-commerce. And suddenly you'll have a few $1,000s more sticking around in your pocket, and for not that much spend and for a little bit more of your time. In case study number 2, if the designer, say, decides to add a new to them stone setting technique, well, now they could add a diamond to those silver rings that they've been making, or a sapphire, meaning that they can charge, say, $50 more, $75 more for that same piece. Or, they can learn how to work in gold a little bit more and add maybe 5 more gold pieces to their website, right? Because even if you're currently selling mostly in silver and a little bit in gold, there is this whole audience out there of consumers who only want to buy gold. I actually know because I'm one of them. I personally can't wear a lot of base metals. I can only wear silver or gold in my ears. So I go looking for these things a lot. And so you might have some consumers out there who have not even thought about buying gold from you yet because they didn't know that you offered it. So maybe it's time to start offering a few more pieces in gold. And some of that can be achieved by either investing in a few extra castings or investing in the gold to make a few extra pieces. Some people have actually just color matched their own photos to make them look gold. It's your choice which one you do, but either way, it's a fairly small investment of your money in order to earn so much more in sales. And you could, like, just a few more sales of some gold jewelry on top of whatever you're doing, or even instead of what you're doing, could again increase your sales by 5%, which would get you that much closer to that six-figure mark that you've been aiming for. Excuse me. So in both of these cases, we're not talking about a huge movement in one direction. We're talking about a small movement in one direction in order to earn 5% more in sales, in order to get 5% more on that top line that will absolutely contribute more to your profit margins. So I just want you to think about this, because all of you have likely had this moment of feeling really stuck, right? And thinking, I need a big push. I need a magazine. I need a this. I need a feature. I need, 1,000 people to like this Instagram post. And sometimes the real answer is that you need a small 5% shift in whatever you're doing that just moves you a little bit farther along. Because in both of these cases that I cited, the 450K, if they make 5% more via e-commerce and they add to their profit, well, that's a few $1,000s more that they have that, first of all, helps them emotionally and mentally feel more stable in their business and feel better about paying their bills. But it can also add those few $1,000s so that you can do more with it. Right? So now you have a few $1,000s more. You could take more photographs for your website. You could hire a professional photographer with that money. You could hire a marketing firm with that money just by making that small shift. In the case of the $90,000 a year designer, if they add just 5% more because they've added a little bit of gold to their website in their jewelry collection, well, now they have a few $1,000s more to play with. What can they do? They could buy more gold and make more gold pieces that they would also add higher priced items to their website, and they could increase their growth. So sometimes when we're talking about these small phases, it's a stepping stone to get to that next phase. Right. But it's part of breaking it down into the smallest chunks possible, the smallest, most manageable chunks possible, so that you can actually achieve your goals. And this is really what I want for you. And I know it's entirely within your grasp. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to having you back next time. Have a great one.